Hi, welcome back. This is part 4 of our talk on consciousness. So let's look at some sleep theories. And remember, a theory is an attempt to explain a pattern in nature. And clearly the pattern in nature that we're talking about is that all of us sleep. And we all need to sleep. But the mystery is why we must sleep. So let's drill into 4 theories that attempt to explain that mystery. Number 1 is an evolutionary theory, and this says that sleep protects. So sleeping in the darkness when predators loomed about kept our ancestors out of harm's way. Interesting theory, but I don't know that that is as salient today as it might have been historically. Number 2, sleep recuperates. So sleep helps restore and repair brain tissue. There's a fair amount of support in the research for this. Number 3, sleep helps remembering. Sleep restores and rebuilds our fading memories. There is ongoing research that supports this theory, and this research is very exciting. Number 3, sleep and growth, or rather number 4, I apologize, sleep and growth. During sleep, the pituitary gland releases growth hormones. Older people release less of this hormone, and this is one of the reasons why they sleep less than children. Let's look at that sleep and memory theory. So sleep is critical for strengthening new memories. It's also critical for integrating new memories with existing memories. So we have 2 different stages of sleep which are responsible for different types of memory consolidation. So the non-REM slow wave sleep during stages 3 and 4, this is where we lay down those episodic memories. Remember, episodic stands for memories of episodes in our life. So during stages 3 and 4, this is where we consolidate memories of these personal events in our lives. REM sleep and non-REM stage 2 sleep is where we lay down procedural memories. So, for example, if you just learned how to ride your bike today, during your sleep, you're going to consolidate the procedure. That's the implicit, the knowing without being able to explain how you know things type of memory. So I'd like to review an interesting tidbit of research with you. The University of Chicago researched how sleep restores and rebuilds the day's memories. So here's the study. First, researchers assessed college students' understanding of common words that were presented in a robotic way that made the words hard to understand, similar to listening to someone with a very strong foreign accent. The students were then trained to understand the words and how to figure out the patterns of sounds. The students never heard the same words more than once, so they had to learn. They couldn't guess. They couldn't memorize. The control group was tested 1 hour after they were trained. They recognized 54% of the words as opposed to only 21% of the words before training. So training clearly helped them recognize the initially incomprehensible words. The second group was trained at 9 in the morning on how to distinguish the words, and then they were tested 12 hours later at 9 at night. They lost much of their learning. Compared to the control group, they showed only a 10% gain over pre-training scores. Remember, pre-training scores were 21%. So this group only improved to 31% compared to the group that was tested an hour later that scored 54%. A third group was tested at 9 in the morning after being trained at 9 p.m. So they learned how to decipher, then they went to sleep. Their performance improved by 20%. So they were able to comprehend 21% before training. After sleeping, after receiving the training, they comprehended 41%. Finally, The students who were trained at 9 in the morning were tested again after a night's sleep, and their scores improved the same level as the group who was trained at night and tested in the morning. So clearly the results of this research suggest that sleep is for remembering. So how can you apply this to your own life? Well, when you're studying for an exam, for example, make it the last thing you do, but don't do it when you're exhausted. So, for example, after you've had a good dinner, maybe you've worked out, that would be a good time for you to study. After you're done studying, just relax. Don't do something that's going to tax your attention and your memory. Then go to sleep and let sleep work its magic. So now let's look at the neurotransmitters that are produced during sleep. Acetylcholine is produced during REM sleep. When it reaches a specific threshold, the signs of REM sleep emerge. When this peaks, the REM off neuronal activity picks up. Norepinephrine and serotonin then suppress REM sleep. The characteristic features of slow-wave non-REM sleep then reemerge, reduced brain and physiological activity, movement capabilities, and the vague ruminating thoughts of sleep thinking. Dreams and REM sleep. A true dream is a vivid, detailed dream consisting of sensory and motor sensations. Sleep thought, however, lacks vivid sensory and motor sensations. It's more similar to daytime thinking, and this occurs during slow-wave sleep. All right, so now let's look at why we dream. First, we'll look at the psychoanalytic interpretation, and then the activation synthesis model, and then the basic physiological function that dreaming offers. So the psychoanalytic interpretation says that we dream in order to express a censored, socially acceptable version of our unconscious drives. And remember, psychoanalysis was the theory put forth by Sigmund Freud. So Freud believed that what's happening in our dreams is it's the expression of these unconscious drives of sex or aggression, because it's not appropriate, or at least it certainly was not in the Victorian era, to express these desires. So Freud said it's a way to discharge unacceptable feelings. Freud said that we have two layers of content to our dreams. We have the manifest content, and this is the outward elements of the dream. So for example, if you're having a dream about a train, the manifest content is the train. Latent content is the unconscious wishes that are concealed in the manifest content. So here, you might be dreaming about that train going through a tunnel. And so Freud would say the manifest content is the train, the consciously experienced elements. The latent content, however, that's something different. That relates to sex. The train going into the tunnel is a sexual expression. Freud said that dreams are actually our wish fulfillments. They provide that psychic safety valve to discharge unacceptable feelings. So the manifest content may have that symbolic meaning, which is the latent content, that signify our unacceptable feelings. Remember, Freud said that our unconscious, unacceptable feelings build up over time, just as a bottle of soda is going to build up if you shake it. And if there isn't a pressure valve to release these subconscious or unconscious feelings, then there's the potential for that bottle of soda to explode and things come out in an inappropriate way, or in Freud's suggestion, in terms of mental illness potentially. And so dreams allow us to express those things that we have to keep repressed. So now let's look at the activation synthesis model or theory. that explains why we dream. This theory suggests that the brain engages in a number of random neural activities while we sleep, and dreams simply make sense of these activities. So when we sleep, areas in our brain that are activated are the areas that process visual activity. Okay, but the visual cortex, which receives input from the eyes, that is not online. So the part of the brain that can produce hallucinations, remember a hallucination is a sensory perception without sensory stimulus, that's similar to what's happening in our dreams. So dreams are the brain's attempt to make sense of these random visual images and to string them together in a coherent story. Remember that while we're sleeping, the prefrontal lobe that governs sort of common sense, that is offline when we're sleeping. So those random images that we string together make complete sense while we're sleeping. And then there's the basic physiological function of dreaming. Dreams provide the sleeping brain with periodic stimulation to develop and preserve neural pathways. The neural networks of newborns are quickly developing, and therefore they need more sleep. When you think about it, we spend approximately 1/4 of our lives asleep. And if our brain was offline for that much of our lives, we might lose some brain capacity pretty quickly. So the physiological function theory simply says if we don't use it, we lose it, and it keeps us using it. So another theory is that dreams give us an opportunity to solve problems that we might not have the time or the ability or the focus to attend to while we're awake. Albert Szech-Györgyi, I apologize for that horrible pronunciation. This is a Nobel Prize winner, and here's his quote. "My work is not finished when I leave my workbench in the afternoon. I go on thinking about my problems all of the time, and my brain must continue to think about them when I sleep, because I wake up sometimes in the middle of the night with answers to questions that have been puzzling me." So let's look at sleep disorders next. And sleep disorders are serious disturbances in the sleep pattern that interfere with daytime functioning, and they cause distress in the person who's experiencing them. So it's important to keep in mind there are two different categories of sleep disorders. We have dysomnias and parasomnias. And I think of these in terms of severity. So the dysomnias are very oftentimes disturbing, although less severe, disruptions in sleep. And that's because they involve a disruption in the amount, quality, and timing of sleep. While this can be significantly impactful on the individual, we see the severity of the actual sleep disorder generally less than the severity of what we call parasomnias. And these are sleep disorders involving undesirable physical arousal or undesirable behaviors or events during sleep or even sleep transitions. So this is where we see things like sleep terrors, sleepwalking, where a person can subject themselves to severe danger. So I'm going to end my presentation at this point and give you an opportunity to reread the dysomnias and parasomnias in your textbook.